a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to My Way, conversations with entrepreneurs doing business outside the box. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I'm getting things together over here finally. It maybe a little rigged behind the scenes, but we're gonna pray that the lights stay up and that everything goes the way it's supposed to go. And that's part of, doing business your way is putting things together and getting things going. When you move, when you are going through big changes and transitions in your life, and it can be a really stressful time for sure. Our guest tonight is supposed to be Mitali, the vegan publisher, but she has not come yet. So it may just be me. I don't know yet, but we're going to have a conversation regardless. That's going to be amazing for sure. So if you are an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, this is the show for you. Because here's the thing. A lot of times you get into wanting to have a business for yourself, wanting to do things your way. And everybody is quick to say, this is what you need to do. These are the things that you have to do in order to have a successful business, or in order to, get your product out there or get yourself out there or something like that. And granted, there are those tried and true things that do tend to work for a lot of people. I think the biggest thing that we've learned so far on this show, this series, is to do things your way, to be yourself, to be authentic, to be who you are. And I thought that I would give you a little bit of my story, a little bit of my own My Way journey, because I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot of different people. Also, if you are tuning in, since our guest is not here and you're an entrepreneur and you'd like to chime in on the topic, I would love for you to chime in on the topic. Just let me know down in the comments. I can also put a little invite here for you. I may or may not let you on if I see you behind the scenes, but we'll see what happens, where things go. But I put the link down there if you'd like to come on the air live tonight with me and share a little bit of your own entrepreneurial journey. I would love for you to do that as well. We're going to open it up tonight and see where things go. So as I mentioned, Mitali, the vegan publisher, was supposed to be on tonight. She's not here. I hope she's okay. I wish her well. But we roll with it. And that's part of it. Like I said, that's part of being an entrepreneur and doing business your way, is to roll with things when things aren't always what you expect them to be, or things don't always go your way. We'll put it that way for sure. So I, have always sort of felt like I need to do things my way. I've always sort of done things outside the box and, never really did well with a boss. I'll be honest with you. Now, I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story. So, my method has always been, my thinking has always been that if you're getting things done, then don't worry about how it's getting done. It's getting done. First proof of that in my life was back in school days. Okay. So they would give you, especially in math, right? They'd give you a math problem. I would give the answer, and the teacher would be like, wrong. And I'd be like, what do you mean it's wrong? That's the right answer. And they're like, yes, but you have to show your work. You have to show how you got there. And I'm like, what does it matter how I got there? I got the correct answer. Right. And so that was the first, I think, little taste for me of like, look, if I'm getting things done, does it really matter how we're doing it here? And the next little bit of that was in different jobs that I had. Again, bosses would want me to do things the tried and true way. And even if my way was better, easier, more efficient, saving the company money, it didn't tend to matter. It was always like, this is the way it's done. This is the way you have to do it. And I would be like, and we're not doing that. And then I would be off finding another job. Right. And then I had, when my kids were little, I worked in this little beachside shop. And we we had a situation where myself and another employee had stuff going on that we needed to take care of. Because that's the other thing too, is that I never wanted to work myself into the ground to where I couldn't enjoy the money that I was making. I couldn't enjoy this life that I was creating for myself through the work. And so, I would want to do things, enjoy my time off, schedule things, party a little bit, that kind of stuff. And so I was working for this little beachside store. This is a naughty Jessica story here. Okay. And I had another fellow employee who wanted to have a certain day off as well. And I was like, I don't mind working then. And he was like, I don't mind working when you want to work. Or don't want to work. So we just, took it upon ourselves to go change the schedule, right? Well, of course, boss lady didn't like that very much. And so I don't recommend that. Don't recommend if you're working for someone else, just taking it upon yourself to change the schedule. But these were things that I'm like, I just want to go with the flow. I want to do things how they work for me. And so I think even though I've worked for a lot of people throughout the years and haven't always been an official entrepreneur, I think I've always had that mindset. I think I've always been like, don't tell me how to do things. I want to do things my way. And then, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, one of the things that's really interesting when you come into this entrepreneurial space is like a lot of us that are creatives are coming into the space going, oh my God, I have all of these ideas. It's like raining tacos, but ideas. Okay. It's craziness. And you have all these ideas and you have this excitement. And that excitement starts to get pushed down a little bit as you start meeting a lot of coaches and a lot of experts, in the entrepreneur space. And that flame, if you're not super confident in what you're doing, if you're not real self-motivated, if you don't have a really thick skin, those things can start to dim your flame a little bit. And it can start to be a situation where you're like hearing, well, you can't do it that way. You have to do this. That doesn't work. This is, not going to play out the way that you think it is. And I think a lot of people mean well, truly. I think a lot of people hear, these success stories and they think, well, if this is what that person used to be successful, then this is the only way to be successful. Then this is how you do it. And while those, like I talked about earlier, those things can be tried and true, there are still multiple other ways to be successful, to grow your business, to get yourself out there, to promote your product. There is lots of different ways to do that. And so that's sort of the energy of where this show was born, because I got tired of hearing that. I came into this not with a thick skin at all. In fact, I'm still working on that because I tend to take things to heart. And I would come into something really excited and have a really great idea. And then someone would say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You can't do things that way." Or "You can't do that." Or "Who said you could do that?" Or, insert whatever here. And I would immediately, instead of going, because I'm the boss and I say, I would take it to heart and I would go, "Oh, well, they say that they have had, 6-7 figure business, so they must know better than me." So then I would lose the idea. And probably one of the biggest wake up calls I had about really being cautious in this entrepreneur space and doing things your way and not necessarily listening to that other person is that I had a coach, really well-known coach, by the way, share with me about how, you have to have a certain kind of program thing set up, right? So I trusted her and I shared with her about my idea for a program. And she said, that's ridiculous. No one will come to that. That's not, why don't you focus on this instead? And she kept trying to redirect me to a different thing that I just wasn't interested in focusing on anymore. See, back many, many years ago, when I really got into the entrepreneurial space, I worked with moms. And at the time, all of my babies were really little. The mom thing is where I was at. And so she kept trying to redirect me back to that space. And I'm like, but I'm not there anymore. I'm not in that space anymore. That's not where I want to focus my work. That's not what I want to do with my time. That's not who I want to work with. That's not my ideal client. But again, this was somebody that had been in the space for a long period of time, and I trusted her. And I said, okay, well, maybe there's something to what she's saying. And so I pivoted and I started focusing on something else. And probably a month later, she proceeded to come out with a program that was exactly like the one I had described to her that she kept trying to pivot me away from. And so that was really my first, okay, first of all, not everybody has your best interest at heart. 2, don't trust everybody. And 3, just because someone says something's not going to work, that doesn't mean it's not going to work. And the funny thing is that her program went on to be very successful. And so that was a learning experience for me. That was one of those moments where I was just like, it's my mindset had to start to shift a little bit in this entrepreneur space. Heather is joining us this evening. What's up, Heather? It's good to see you. Also, if you guys are here, let me know, say hi, and I can say hi back. We're doing a little entrepreneur rapping here this evening. We're supposed to have a guest. Mitali, the vegan publisher, is supposed to be here this evening. She is not. So I'm telling you guys a little bit about my own entrepreneurial journey and how I'm doing things my way. And so those are some of kind of the wake up moments that I've had of how I knew that I kind of was supposed to be an entrepreneur, how I knew to start listening to myself, how I knew to really start trusting myself as opposed to other people. And it's been a really cool, interesting journey. I want to share with you guys some of the other fun things that I've been doing and about the importance of changing things up when you're not feeling it anymore, kind of leaning in on your intuition a little bit and what that's looked like for me as well. So we're going to take a little bit of a quick break and we're going to be right back after this.
Thanks for watching the Breakthrough Show Network. Today, we'd like to support our friend over at Nail Beauty by Brittany. Purchase your custom press-on Reiki-infused nails by visiting nailbeautybybritney.com. Don't forget your discount by using the code BREAKTHROUGH. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to My Way, Conversations with Entrepreneurs Doing Business Outside the Box. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Super excited that you're with us here this evening. Juju's out there tonight. Hi, Juju. It's good to see you tonight. Also, Miss Heather is out there as well. And let us know if you are joining us and watching. I see that our guest has arrived in the background, so I want to take a minute to introduce her. And thank you guys for entertaining some of the storytelling that I was doing in the beginning of the show to fill some space. I appreciate all of you very, very much. Our guest tonight believes that you have a story worth telling. After rescuing her first animal and becoming vegan, she has made it her mission to empower other vegans and plant-based influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs to become best-selling authors. Let's welcome to the screen the vegan publisher herself, Mitali. We'll be right back. Mitali, welcome to My Way.
Hello, Jessica. First of all, let me please apologize for my tardiness. We're talking about stories. Do I have a story to tell? Something's going wrong in my neighborhood. We had a helicopter, a police helicopter. There's some sort of chase happening. And then everyone's internet went as well. So I'm like, what are these criminals doing? Are they tampering with our broadband? What's going on? So
What did you do?
I have no idea what's going on. Then it suddenly just literally switched on about 2 minutes ago. And I thought, oh my God, I need to get on and speak to Jessica. So I apologize.
But well, that's what we were talking about in the beginning, that, part of being an entrepreneur is rolling with things when things happen. And, the show's called My Way, but things don't always go our way. Like sometimes.
Well, it hasn't gone my way tonight. It really hasn't gone my way tonight.
Well, I would love for you to take a couple of moments to let everybody know where it is in the world you're joining from and how you got into this space of entrepreneurship.
Okay, so I'm based in the northeast of England, and oh gosh, how did I get into entrepreneurship? That's quite a long story, so I'm going to give you a very abridged version. So my father came to the UK. He trained as a telecoms engineer over in India. This was in the late 60s, early 70s, when there was a telecom boom. Everybody wanted to have a telephone in their homes. So they needed engineers. There weren't enough engineers in the UK. So obviously they went out to the former colonies of Britain. And my dad had a chance to come and live and work here. Within a few years, he realized that being an employee just didn't suit him. He really wanted to be his own man. And then he decided to buy a restaurant. And within about a year, he had quadrupled its turnover. So from a very early age, it was 1986, I believe, when he took the restaurant on. So I was 8 years old. So it's always left an indelible mark on me. I was actually doing his books, doing, all the incomings and outgoings. I was doing that from the age of 10 and making sure his books were right. So it's been in my blood for a very, very long time.
That's amazing to have that influence, because I've seen it sort of split down the middle in the entrepreneur space, where some people really have that entrepreneurial influence within their family, and other people saw the opposite side of that and were like, I never want to experience that, in my life, for sure. Did you always, even though you had that influence, did you always work for yourself, or was there a period of time when you were working for others?
No, so strange. This is influences are weird, aren't they? So with my father, it was interesting because his actions were telling me be an entrepreneur, But his words were telling me the absolute opposite. He was saying it's hard work. You'll never work as hard for anyone as you do for yourself. He says, you have to worry about the fact that you're not getting a regular salary all the time. He actually put me off it. And his dream really was for me to be a doctor. I know it's so typical, like Indian girl educated has to be a doctor. I mean, I was meant to be a walking, talking cliche, obviously. But I guess looking back, I've always been far more interested in action rather than words. Sounds a bit strange being a book publisher. So words obviously are important to me. But certainly when it comes to people, what they do is usually far more powerful than what they actually say. So definitely with my dad, I ultimately ignored his words and went with his actions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is a underlying thread that connects all of us together on this series in particular, is people who are like, I'm not doing things the way that you say that I have to do. That we're rebels over here.
I think rebelliousness and entrepreneurship kind of go hand in hand, really. I mean, even in 2022, it's still the case. I was just speaking to one of my new authors recently, and his book is all about how even now in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in the US and in most, I was going to say Western countries, but really I think in all countries, there's only two routes given to you when you're young. Either you're academic, and then you do the whole university, college qualifications thing, and you become a doctor, an engineer, an accountant, or I suppose what you'd call white collar jobs. Or you learn a trade and you get into blue collar jobs, and that's about it. Those are your options.
Right.
And this gentleman who's writing his book with me at the moment, he fell into the trade because he wasn't academic enough. The schools still in this country don't recognize different forms of intelligence.
Right.
So intelligence is academic, and if you can't do that, then you might as well be good with your hands and learn a trade, and that's about it.
Right.
And he fell into trade, was very unhappy with himself, but then he managed to learn entrepreneurship, did a number of courses, found himself a mentor, and now he renovates property. And he's arguably making more money, if you define success with money. He's arguably making more money than a lot of his peers who went on to university and have some sort of career with academia. And his book is all about trying to catch these young people and say, look, there's a third route. So I think rebelliousness is built into entrepreneurship, and it will carry on being part of entrepreneurship until some government somewhere wakes up and realizes that they need to nurture this. And only then will the rebelliousness stop and it becomes something that people just can't do. But until that happens, I think you have to have a bit of rebellious spirit, because you have to shun the two routes that are laid out for you.
Right. And what about, I kept this word kept coming up to me as you were talking, and that's fearlessness. Because I think that a lot of times in the entrepreneur space, the thing that holds people back from being an entrepreneur, having their own business, are a lot of fears. And one of those things is things like, at least here in the US, when you work, typically you get medical insurance, you get a lot of these different perks. If you work for yourself, you have to figure all that out, and it's not handed to you. It's not even handed to you in the workforce, but it's not laid out for you. Like somebody from HR isn't coming down. You don't have an HR person.
And they're not sorting your life out. You've got to do it.
They're not telling you what to do. So what do you see as like some of the biggest fears that you've seen come up for people?
I'll tell you what's worked for me, Jessica. Maybe if somebody can get some insights from that, then great. I think it's because going back to the two routes that we're given. The routes that we're given are still jobs. Either it's a white collar job if you're academic enough, or a blue collar job if you're not academic, and that's it. So we kind of are brought up to believe in the security of jobs, and then we compare it to running a business, and it feels far less secure. Like you said, you have to figure out You know, here in the UK, we're quite lucky. We do have the NHS. We still need to figure out things like pension, national insurance contributions, making sure your taxes are in order, you know, things that you don't have to deal with when you are an employee.
Right.
So it feels more secure, but it really is, it's a mirage. It's not the reality. And what really worked for me, Jessica, is I was listening to a fantastic podcast by a wonderful duo based here in the UK, Vegan Business Tribe podcast, and podcast for vegan and plant-based entrepreneurs. And the gentleman who does it, David, you know, he did a really, really good episode a few months ago. Actually, maybe a bit longer ago now, maybe a year ago. You know what the pandemic is like. It just the whole last 2 years.
It's all mushed together.
So yeah, it may be over a year ago. So don't quote me on that. But what he did was he gave me sort of these two concepts in the podcast that I just thought, oh my God, this is genius. And it's just reframing your mind. First of all, this idea that, you know, having a business is less secure. When you have your own business, chances are you've got your figures worked out at least a quarter in advance. And most businesses, you're looking at 6 to 12 months in advance. You can see a problem about to happen months in advance. Employees don't have that. If you're a senior level employee, you might get 3 months notice. Do you honestly think a problem happened and then 3 months later? Basically, the problem happened a year ago.
Right.
You just weren't told about it.
Right.
And they were trying to fix it, and then they couldn't fix it, and now you're being told they have to let you go. If you're a lower worker, you literally get about a month's notice, if that.
Yeah.
So this idea of security that you have in a job, it is a mirage. It's not real, you know?
Right.
And that was a key concept that I learned from that podcast. And it made me feel like, gosh, that's true. You know, we actually have more security. And yes, of course, in the beginning, we have to learn things like how to do our taxes correctly and make sure we do business plans and make sure we do the accounting right. But once you get through that, the sense of control that you have over your own destiny, it's far beyond the control you have as an employee. Maybe a few decades ago when we used to have, you know, jobs for life, maybe it was different then, but there's no such thing as jobs for life. There hasn't been now for 30 years or so. I remember in the UK, you know, from I would say the early 90s onwards, it was all in the news. Like no such thing as jobs for life. It just doesn't happen now. People now tend to spend a few years in one job and then they go off to another job and a few years there. And that just became the norm. So you don't, I think that really helped me. And I hope that helps other people. It really is a mirage. It's because from a very early age, you're told, get an education, get a job. So in your head, it's like, that's a secure thing. And being rebellious, we're talking about rebellion again, rebels usually are in uncharted territory. They're usually doing something that isn't proven and therefore it's more dangerous. However, it's actually just a mirage because you're in more control as a business owner. Once you've learned how to run a business, and usually I say for most people, it takes about a year. So be easy on yourself. If you haven't got everything right within a couple of months, don't worry. It took me about a year to really figure out, right, this is how you do the books. This is how you do accounting.
Right.
It took me about a month just to figure out how to link my software with my bank account. Do you know what I mean? I think it take 10 times. I'm good with words. That's why I'm a book publisher and I'm a book consultant. Terrible at everything else. So things tend to take me about 10 times longer than the average person. But as long as you stick at it, I feel a sense of control over my business, my life, my finances that I realized I thought I had as an employee. But you really, really don't. Like I said, you're lucky if you get 3 months notice. That's if you're senior level. Most people, you'll get a month's notice. Yeah. The problem didn't happen a month ago. The problem happened a year or longer ago. You just weren't told about it.
You have no idea. You're
not important enough for them to tell you. You know, they're going to try and figure it out. And if they can't figure it out, you're going to be the last to know that your job is now untenable. If they don't have the money to keep you, and off you go. So hopefully that helps people. It's really helped me feel very comfortable. Oh, the other concept David talked about is another fear that we have is, oh my God, what if the money just dries up? What if I don't get enough leads in this month or this quarter, and then I've got no money and my business stops? Again, first of all, there's no such thing as a job for life. Secondly, the skills that you've learned as an entrepreneur, it's something that employers want. Someone who has that get up and go, someone who makes things happen, someone who doesn't act like an employee, as in you give them stuff to do and they just do it, but someone who has initiative. Employers love that. So in the worst case scenario, if everything goes very wrong and the business tanks, you can go back onto the job market with an incredible CV, and chances are employers will want to take you on and say, wow, okay, this is someone who really, you're bringing these extra skills into all that employees who may even have a few years more experience in that particular sector, but will never have.
Right.
Skills can be learned, but that entrepreneurship, that rebelliousness and that need to really get on and make something happen, you can't learn that. Either you've got it or you don't, and employers love that. So those two things in tandem has made me feel so much more secure as an entrepreneur moving forward, that I just think, actually, I'm now in a more secure position than I've ever been as an employee.
Yeah. It's very true. Very true. And you don't think about those things because that's not taught to us growing up. That's not taught to us in school. And even if you are fortunate enough to have an entrepreneur in your life, even then it wasn't always talked about. My grandmother owned a business and I had no idea a lot of things until now I have it. And now I'm learning lessons. So it is what it is. I want to switch gears a little bit, Mitali, and talk about being a publisher. Why get into publishing? What makes you passionate about being a publisher?
Well, it's something that came to me while I was a copywriter and a ghostwriter, Jessica. So it wasn't like I had a burning passion to help people publish books. I was a copywriter and ghostwriter. I wrote for a number of different clients around the world, and I wrote lots of different kinds of content. So I wrote articles, of course, but I also wrote landing pages, sales pages, email sequences, autoresponder sequences. I've done work for catalogs, all kinds of stuff. And then during the pandemic, got a lot of time to be in my head and twiddle my thumbs like all of us did, and thinking, oh my God, losing the will to live. Every day feels the same. And I suddenly had this brainwave. I just thought I'd actually like to just, go back to all my previous clients. And, I was just thinking it'd be nice to maybe teach something, not just write, but actually teach writing. But I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And I didn't want to be like I can teach you to write anything, because, it doesn't, everyone knows that niching works really well. To be known for one thing is much better than to be slightly known for lots of different things. So I was thinking, well, what do I specialize in? I could specialize in teaching people to write converting emails. I can teach people how to write sales pages and landing pages, or Facebook ads or Google ads. What was I wanting to do? So I had this brainwave. This is summer of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. We're in the lockdown here in the UK. And I started to interview all my previous clients, just get in touch with them and say, hey, tell me which piece of content I wrote for you made the biggest difference in terms of your branding and also revenue. And I kind of half expected people to come back with sales page, because if you think about it, that's the one with the big old buy button that says buy me. Right. So I figured that would be the real money maker. Surprisingly, it wasn't. It was books. Wow. I've written 7 books as a ghostwriter, and all 7 of those clients who I've written all other kinds of content for, and they've said over the long run, the thing that's made the biggest difference to their business has been the book. Sales pages are great for you do a launch of a product or a program and you make a load of money in one go and then it dies. Whereas with a book, I mean, my clients are, some of their books are now several years old when I wrote them. They're still leveraging those books. They're still using it to get into the media. They're still using it to get keynote speaking gigs. They're still using it, and that is what inspired me. I thought, okay, this is the thing that I can really help people with and really make a difference for their business and their branding long term. So that's why I got into book consulting and publishing.
That's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure it surprised you because I've had a couple moments like that in my business as well, where I put out a poll. I'm like, okay, of these things that I've done, what has been the thing that is, helped you the most or been the most beneficial to you? And it's every time has been completely different than what I thought it was going to be.
And I'm glad you do that, because sometimes I think as business owners we're in danger of thinking we know, like we know
Right.
our audience and we know what works. And one thing I've learned is to always get feedback, never
Mm.
assume, you know. But yeah, it was surprising. And just imagine if I didn't do that, I'd probably be
Yeah.
teaching sales page writing, which I'm not saying that would be an issue, but my heart really should be with helping people write books.
Right. Right. I imagine though too that you have to have a certain level of appreciation, love, passion for it as well. It's not just about polling your audience and going, okay, pick one of these and then going
Oh
with the
yeah.
one that they want, but you don't really like to do that. It has to be something that you're really passionate about as well, right?
Oh yeah, I would say writing books is one of my favorite pieces of content. It's I enjoy writing emails as well, email sequences, because I love, again, it's the fact that you can build a journey in a relationship, which is difficult to do with an advert or a sales page or a landing page. So certainly I prefer writing, helping people write emails and books. I really, really love that, because it really is the piece of content where you can really explain who you are, because we all know that, people do business with people that they like ultimately. So, most people make an emotional decision. They'll say they don't. They'll say they'll make a decision logically as to why they chose product A over product B, or business A over business B, or whatever. But they don't. They actually make an emotional choice and then create logical reasons as to why they made an emotional choice. So, it's a gut reaction that people either like you or don't. So when in a book, I always say to all of my clients, it will be your most complete form of your message, your journey, how you're showing up in this world. Yes, you'll do it in mini bite-sized bits on social media and maybe blog posts on your website. But who reads everything on a website? Who's going to read every blog post that you put in? Who certainly reads all of your social media posts? That's not going to happen. So people are getting a disjointed view of what you're about, but they
Right.
read your book, and that is an opportunity for you to really like put a stake in the ground and say, this is what I stand for, and give people the opportunity to like you. And also, crucially, get people who you don't want to work with to not like you. That's
Right.
also a key thing. And something I learned the hard way is that, you shouldn't say yes to every client, because the
Right.
money they pay you is not worth the hassle that they bring to the table.
Right.
You've got to get clear about what kind of clients you want to take on. And again, you can do this on social media, on blog posts, on websites, on adverts. You can certainly do that. But the most complete form of your message as to who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with is going to be your book.
Right. Right. I love that. And it really does seem to be a very personal thing to put out in the world. Sometimes, I mean, you can get personal in social media posts and things like that, but sometimes it's hard to get the full picture of who somebody is that way. Now, with this show, we talk about doing things our way, doing things that are different. And you have certainly drawn the line in the sand, Mitali, for not just being the publisher, Mitali the publisher. It's Mitali the vegan publisher. You've said the dreaded V word that everybody's like, oh my God, you can't say that. But what gets me about this, and this is what I really want to point out to everybody that's watching tonight, is, and this is the importance of this show in particular, is you will get a coach who will say, Mitali, you need to niche down. You need to have that one person you're talking to, that one avatar. And Mitali says, great, I'll be the vegan publisher. Same coach will say, oh, but you can't do that. You can't, you
Yeah,
can't
you got to
say
niche
that.
down, but not niche down too much, and no one knows where that
Right,
golden ratio is. That's the
right,
problem.
right. Why go why draw the line in the sand? Why was that important for you?
Well, again, this is I'm a big tester. I think that is the cornerstone to my success. I do get into my head, but then I've learned to step out of my head and go, okay, where's the outside feedback here? You know, because sometimes you can go into your own world and think you're doing the right thing and you're not. So my book came out. So I wrote my book. So there's the 8th book I've written, but the first book that had my name on it, that came out last year. And that book didn't even mention that I was vegan. I wasn't hiding it. I just never even thought to bring it into my world. I've been vegan since 2012, but something I did in my personal life. It had nothing to do with my business. So therefore, I never even thought about bringing it in. It wasn't that I was hiding it. And then when the book came out, it got a ton of publicity. It got a lot of media attention and all the wonderful things that you want a book to do. That's why you write a book. So I got all of those wonderful things. And then what ended up happening is someone somewhere found out that I was vegan. And I'll actually name her Heather. She's a wonderful lady based in Denmark, but she's a British lady. And she started to just say, well, why do you never mention that you're vegan? And it's like, well, I'm not ashamed of it. Well, I'm proud of it, but it's just got nothing to do with my business.
Right.
She said, okay, cool. But I'm in a number of vegan and plant-based entrepreneurial circles, and some of them are not even fully vegan, but like they're ethically or sustainably minded. Come and join me. So the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh God, no, I've got too much to do. But then she was very patient and kept going on. And she started to drag me to all of these networking events full of these incredible people. Not all of them are vegan, but they're on their way. And, you know, just people who genuinely have businesses that are making a difference. I think there's a lot of lip service now with people, you know, with businesses that make a difference. I always jokingly say there must have been some sort of huge webinar in 2016 that, you know, told all entrepreneurs they need to have this, you know, wonderful mission statement. So now you get all of these. I see them on LinkedIn on a mission to, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, really, you're not fooling me.
That's the most hilarious thing about social media is sometimes like these big programs will come out or these big webinars or something like that. And you'll see there'll be like these couple of catchphrases that happen in these, you know, programs. And the next thing you know, everybody's
doing it. That's what I said.
Like, well, you know who went.
I reckon circa 2016, 2017, I'm guessing there was some huge webinar because suddenly now everyone's on this amazing, you know, mission. And I'm just like, you're just a business that's trying to make money. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But come on, you know. Whereas when in these circles, these people are really putting their money where their mouth is, to use the phrase. I mean, I now know people in my circle who are regularly sort of 10% of their business profits go straight away to, you know, making sure their business is carbon neutral, for example, or it's planting trees, or it's being donated to an animal shelter. You know, these people are genuinely living and breathing their mission to not just make money, but to actually leave the world a better place, whether it's to do with the environment, whether it's to do with animals, whether it's to do with other humans and humans living in horrible conditions around the world. So the more I started to go into these circles, the more inspired I got. And I just thought, oh my God, these are the people that I really want to work with. And from a selfish point of view, they're easier to work with as well, because they have a much better story to go in their book. They need less help from me, because usually these people have already had an extraordinary journey. I always say entrepreneurs are, we've already discussed this at the top of our conversation, you know, they're unique and rebellious.
Right.
And then you add on this extra layer that not only this person is an entrepreneur, but they have this next level of maturity that I don't see many adult human beings around the world have, which is thinking beyond your immediate family, friends, and community, and actually thinking of the world as a whole, thinking of all the inhabitants in the world, regardless of race or regardless of whether they're human or not. That is seriously the next level of maturity that is not usual. I don't see many human beings who have that. So to be surrounded by all of these human beings who have reached that level of maturity, they've got extraordinary stories to tell. Think of an entrepreneur story and it's fascinating. These ethical, sustainable, or plant-based entrepreneurs, their stories are 10 times more fascinating. So from a selfish point of view, it's like, it's going to be easier getting books out of them as well, because they've got better stories. Yeah. So that's when I had the idea that I really needed to put a stake in the ground and really say what I am. And my publishing imprint is called Let's Tell You Story. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't really give anything away though. So
Yeah.
if I was now going to work with this particular group of people, I kind of needed to let people know where I stood on issues of, ethics and sustainability. And so the vegan publisher was born.
Yeah. It's amazing. I had last episode Kathleen Gage on the show, and we
Yes.
had an entire
Incredible
we love Mitali section of the show, because I was telling her that
Oh
you
my
were going
God,
to be on. Oh, you need to go back and watch.
Just to make my head big, I'm going to go and listen to that
now. It was so good. It was so good. But I asked her, because she was talking a lot about putting yourself out there. And I said, I asked her, is there a line like where you should like not put certain things out there? I'll ask you something similar. And that's that, do you feel like everyone who's vegan should mention that as part of their business? That should that be part of their platform, or is that truly like a personal thing?
It's a personal thing. It's not for everyone. I did actually toy with the idea of calling myself the ethical publisher. It feels more, I guess, more catch-all. I do spend a lot of my life explaining to non-vegans who want to work with me that they don't have to be vegan to work with me. So I get tired of my own voice. Like, I feel like putting at the top of my website now, it's like, you don't have to be vegan to work with me. I'm talking about me. I'm the vegan publisher. I'm not talking about you. As long as you're not trophy hunting or doing something horrific like that, then, if you've got a message and you're trying to make the world a better place in some way, talk to me. Let's get you published. So from that point of view, maybe calling myself the ethical publisher would have been easier. But I just really, it's my personality. I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of girl. And I was like, right, I'm doing this now. And then I went for it. Do I recommend everyone do it? No, I would say I may have even lost work by becoming the vegan publisher. Now,
Right.
I have the kind of personality that says to hell with that. I don't care. If you're so daft that you won't even just send me a message and say, hey, want to work with you, love what you do, seen you on this fantastic podcast, but I'm worried that I'm not fully vegan. I'm becoming plant-based, but I'm still having the odd steak and stuff like that. If you can't even shoot me an email or a DM and just ask me a question, you're probably not someone I want to work with anyway. But I do have that kind of attitude. Not all entrepreneurs are like that. And if you don't have that kind of all or nothing attitude, then certainly maybe going for something like the ethical, or using the word sustainable or green, things like that, give them, you're still putting a certain stake in the ground. You are saying you want to work with a certain kind of person, but it catches more people, whereas vegan, I suppose, can be a little bit polarizing. Yeah, it's a personal thing. For me, it's been the best thing ever. My turnover doubled when I became a vegan publisher, because now I was able, whereas before I was speaking to all entrepreneurs.
Right.
I would say mainly service-based entrepreneurs, because I'm not saying I can't. I've worked with a number of authors who have product-based businesses, and the book is promoting the products. But I guess if you have a service-based business, it makes more sense, because chances are you're talking for a living anyway. If you're a coach or consultant, so it lends itself to a book more. But really, I could have just worked with any entrepreneur. So my message was, I guess, a little bit diluted. Whereas now, as the vegan publisher, it's like people know. So it's really, really worked for me. But I would hesitate telling people to go that harsh. It really depends on your industry. I would, again, the theme of today's meeting seems to be testing. Test out your market, find out from your market, how many people, if you are vegan yourself, and find out from your market how many of your customers are actually vegan. If you find that a sizable proportion are not vegan, ask them how they feel about the term vegan. Do they view it as a positive word, or is it a negative word? And these things will help you understand whether you should use the word vegan, or you can use something like plant-based.
Right.
or like I
Right.
said, ethical or sustainable. There are ways around it, definitely.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. And ultimately, like, it goes back to something else that we were talking about with feeling passionate about what you do. And if you feel that call to do it, then you have to kind of understand that there may be a shift in your audience, that there may be a shift in how things are done. And I think there's also, I don't know how you feel about this, about when you adopt a term, that there's a level of responsibility that comes with it. We had an experience this last weekend. We just relocated, and there are more vegan options here for restaurants, foods, things like that. And there's a vegan food truck that was scheduled to be at an event that we were going to be at. So we drove all the way there so that we could show support, experience this food truck, everything else.
Yeah.
They didn't show up.
Oh,
They were literally the only vegan option, didn't show up, didn't post on
no.
their social media that they couldn't make it or whatever, like nothing. No, and still to this, I mean, that was 4 days ago and there's still nothing. Like, no, like, hey, sorry, we couldn't be there, nothing like that. And for me, like, that was rough for me to witness, because I'm like, being the only vegan option at this event, that to me would have come with a hefty responsibility of going, I better show up and do a damn good job while I'm at it. And then they didn't even show up. So it's
Yeah.
like, do you ever feel that level of responsibility calling yourself the vegan publisher?
Oh yeah, it's something that I really had to think about. And
Yeah.
again, I probably would make my life a lot easier if I went with the ethical
Right.
publisher or the sustainable publisher. Ethical publisher is probably the catch-all one that, sustainable certainly has connotations to it. People will expect you to be, for example, carbon neutral. They'll be expect you to do certain things. Whereas with ethical, I suppose, as long as you're not doing anything that's really horrible, you could call yourself the ethical publisher. So yeah, call myself the vegan publisher. There are extra responsibilities.
Right.
I'm actually at the moment applying to be recognized by a couple of vegan bodies here in the UK as vegan. So you got to go through a process, and they test everything. And I think they'll probably need to speak to some of my staff because my entire operations are vegan. So all my editors
Wow.
and designers and everybody are vegan as well. So I assume they'll have to speak to them and make sure they are vegan. So yeah, I open myself up to more scrutiny.
Mm,
But again, this is all about, going back to what we discussed about just owning a business.
right.
The more you do this, the more you learn and the more you scrutinize, the better you get, and the more the better you look in front of your target audience. Like, the reason I'm putting myself up to this kind of scrutiny is I'm now seeing this sort of, I would say in the last couple of years, there's a real appetite now for people going plant-based, which is wonderful. That's exactly what I wanted when I went vegan many years ago, and people looked to me as I was the weirdest thing on the planet. So it's wonderful, but it also means there's a lot of, the term is greenwashing. There is a lot of companies out there that are just jumping on the plant-based stroke vegan stroke,
Right.
and they don't have a clue what they're doing. They're just
Right.
saying whatever. It's a marketing ploy for them.
Yeah.
So by putting myself up to this kind of scrutiny, yes, it's a hassle, and it's like I'm probably going to end up spending a couple of days out of work just getting all the evidence together for all of these, these people and that sort of thing. But it's showing people that I'm the real deal. And, I'm not just saying I'm ethical. It's true. What I
Right.
do is correct. So, like, for example, my website, it's, I don't know if you know, Jessica, but the average website emits somewhere between 2 to 4 milligrams of carbon per page, which doesn't sound like a lot. But
Mm,
think of each time a page loads up and then how many pages you have.
wow.
Someone can easily just wandering around your website just for a few minutes could created 20 to 50 milligrams of carbon. Do you know what I mean? I think of how many people are doing that on the planet. So whereas my website's been built sustainably, it costs more money because of that. It emits somewhere, I think it's 0.29 milligrams. So we're
Wow.
talking about am I, again, I'm a words person, not a numbers person. Is that a 10th of what the average, a 10th to a 20th of what the average website page emits? Do you know what I mean? So there's things that, I mean, I'm having to spend extra money. I'm doing my due diligence. I'm now looking at a payment gateway that I can replace Stripe with, which actually plants trees for every transaction that is made. You know, and and it costs more money, and I'm putting myself up to a high level of scrutiny. But it's a good thing because I'm doing those things that so many other people aren't. And that's what's going to distinguish me. I'm already I'm the only vegan publisher in the entire world that is helping people write business or self-help or how-to guides. I'm already a first anyway. But then when I really live up to the word vegan, that really, you know, puts me into the eyes of people who are my target audience. Goes, she knows what she's doing. She's a real deal. She's not greenwashing. Right. So I always say, I mean, it's the same with books as well. I always tell my author, because they, you know, I have authors that, you know, the first couple of consultations, they're a little bit nervous and they're going, oh my God, can I do this? Can I write a book? Do I have it in me to write a book? It's amazing how I meet some incredibly intelligent and capable people who want to write books, but suddenly they all get, you know, struck with imposter syndrome, and the whole "am I good enough" thing happens. And then they, you know, they always ask me, "Is it difficult to write a book?" And I always give them the honest truth, which is, someone like me will make it as step by step and as easy as you're going to get it. However, am I going to lie to you and say it's going to be a walk in the park? No, but that's actually a good thing. Because if it was a walk in the park, everyone would do it. And then there'd be no point. It'd be like, I mean, I'm old enough. I don't know how, I think you're a bit younger than me, Jessica, but I'm old enough to remember so the early 2000s or the late 90s where hardly anybody had a website. And if you had a website, you just killed it in that market. It could be the ugliest ass website ever, and it will still kill it. And then guess what happened? It became normal. And then everybody got a website. And now you almost have to have a website because you're just not taken seriously without one.
Right.
I know business owners whose websites don't even do anything for them.
Right.
They literally, they don't even need it. And yet they have it just because they need to have it, because otherwise they won't be taken seriously. I don't want books to go that way.
Right.
I suppose from a selfish point of view, it'd be great for me because I just that everyone wants to write books. So from my point of view, business will be booming. But for my authors, it won't be great because it's writing a book, going that extra mile is what makes them head and shoulders above their competition. So you don't want writing books to get that easy. Right. Because then everyone will do it.
Right. Very true.
You know,
very true.
Same thing with me, you know, opening myself up to this level of scrutiny. I would urge anybody listening to this, even if you're not vegan, even if you're in some other way, is there some sort of an award or certification that you can get that your competitors don't have? Because yes, it's extra work as you're putting yourself up to scrutiny, but that's what's going to make you stand out. That's going to make people go, okay, this person has this and all these other people don't. Right. So this person's got something extra, you know, so don't be afraid of extra scrutiny or extra work. It's actually a gift, because the thing that's making you go, oh, I can't be bothered. Guess what? That's what's happening with all your competitors. And hopefully they'll just give in to that feeling and won't bother. And you'd be the one who doesn't give in to that feeling.
I love it. I love it. And I think, you know, that goes back to what we were saying about these fears that pop up for us as entrepreneurs, and they're going to pop up for us no matter what. But I mean, I say just take a chance. One of the things that I want to cover, because we only have a couple minutes left, is your book, The Freedom Master Plan. Put your mission, movement, and message on the map for vegan and ethical experts, influencers, and entrepreneurs. What I really love about your book, Mitali, is that you give a lot of really good tips and case studies throughout the book. But there's also, you touch on some of the controversial, more, I mean, they're not straight out controversial, but you know, they just are. We've talked about some of these different things on My Way before, like things like direct mail actually working, you know, for some people. And then also one of my favorite parts is when you talk about free gifts. in your book. And the reason I love this so much is because it drives me nuts when I go to people. They're like, free gift. This is great. And you go and you download it and it's crap. Like it's not actually of value. And so you say right out in there, free is it. That's the amazing word. But must be valuable. So while it doesn't seem like this should be a controversial topic, it is, because we see so many people pumping out these freebies all the time. Are they actually valuable? Are they things that people are getting things out of? So I love this book, and I would love for you to tell everybody where they can get it, what they can expect when they read it, all of that good stuff.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. Wow. I should just get you to talk about the book, really. You're doing a better job than I am. So you just carry on. No. So yeah, the book came about mainly because I just thought, I realized I actually was going to write a book about how to write a book. Can you get any more meta than that? That's originally what the book was going to be about. But again, going back to testing, I started to test out my audience and find out from them, is that what they would want to read? The feedback that I started to get was there was a step earlier that I'd missed. And that is, why should you write a book? It's all fine and well writing a book about how to write a book. But I made an assumption, an important assumption there, that a person already knows what a book can do for them. A lot of people don't. They know writing a book is a good idea because every time they go to a seminar or a conference, or the speakers are always introduced as author of such and such book. So people are aware that writing a book really does wonders for your branding and your business standing. But they're not really sure whether it'll work for their business, and after they publish a book, what on earth do they do with it? So that was what sparked the idea for the Freedom Master Plan. And what I did was I interviewed 7 of my clients who've written books and done incredible things with the book and built huge business and brands off the back of their books. And I just asked them and said, tell me everything you did. Don't leave any stone unturned. Tell me everything you did. And I just recorded everything, because what I wanted was a book that people can read. It's a very easy read. I think it should only take you about 2.5 hours to read. So it's not like some huge, dense book that you have to get through. It's all case study based. So it's all stories of my clients and what they did with their books. And my goal is that by the end of it, well, 2 things. First of all, you will have worked out whether writing a book is a good idea or not. If it is, great. You'll now be pumped to write it, because you have to remember, to be motivated to do anything, you need to feel like the outcome is going to be good.
Right.
If you're not even sure that whether the outcome is going to be good, then it's really difficult to motivate yourself to put the time and effort into something, right? So if you can get to the end of the Freedom Master Plan and you can have a clear picture of what you're going to do with your book and how it's going to fit in with your existing marketing, you're going to be pumped to write that book.
Right.
Or you may get to the end of it. I have had a few people get to it and thought, it made me realize I shouldn't write a book. And I've been happy. I haven't been upset, because I thought, great, now you don't have to torture yourself for the rest of your life whether you should write a book or not. Yeah. It's done, So that was the first motivation. The second motivation is for you to write a plan. I called it the Freedom Master Plan because each chapter is dedicated to using a book, or how to use a book, to gain freedom from some of the most annoying things in business that we all have to deal with. So the first chapter is annoying clients. We've all had them. They suck the life force out of you. And how to use a book to get rid of those people and attract the right people. Then there's a chapter about lead generation. Again, something that a lot of, especially new entrepreneurs, don't enjoy. They don't like doing the lead generation. They just want to do the thing that they do, But to get the people in to do that work, you have to do all this lead generation, and how you can use a book to start making it easier for you to generate leads. Sales calls, another thing that I'm yet to find an entrepreneur that genuinely, hand on heart, like sales calls. And there's a whole chapter on how to use your book to make the sales process so much easier that it no longer feels like you're on a sales call to a potential client. So it's all in silos or chapters, where by the end of it, I always say, it's in my introduction, it's like, read this book with a pen and paper next to it. So when you're reading these case studies and all these tips and tactics that my clients have used, if that makes you think, oh, I can use that in my business, write it down. Otherwise, you'll forget it. So just write it down. And by the end of it, you will have your own master plan of how you can gain freedom from all the annoying things in your business using a book. So that was my goal, with the Freedom Master Plan.
Yeah, I love it so much because, to be honest with you, when you talk about freedom, especially in your life, in your business, writing a book is not one of the things that you typically hear mentioned. So I love that this is the route that you're going. I love that you're putting this on the table as another option for people to have, and a good one, not just another option, but a good option. And we want everybody to visit thefreedommasterplan.com. It is down there scrolling at the bottom, and it is also in the show notes down below as well. So make sure you click and go on that. One of the last things that I love to ask all of my guests, Mitali, is obviously this show is about doing business your way. And there's a lot of people that watch the show that are like, yeah, this sounds good, but I don't think I can do things my way. That there's a lot of people telling me that I can't do what I want to do, that there's only one way and it's not my way. And what would you say to that person as encouragement that's watching today?
I would say, have a look at who's around you, who is actually telling you this. Okay. And I always find it interesting how people who've never had a business feel like they can advise you to not go into business. I think, but you've never done it. I mean, if it's someone has had a business and they failed, I want to listen to that person. I'm still sure it wouldn't stop me, but at least that would be a worthwhile conversation to have, because maybe I can find out what mistakes they made so I don't make those same mistakes.
Right.
But taking advice from people who've never run a business, who are indoctrinated into this idea of you go and get decent grades and then you either go to college or you go and learn a trade. Why would you be listening to it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like taking advice for, on the best ways to run a marathon by a golfer.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, that's not what you do. You guys get into a caddy and you get driven around.
Yeah.
So you're not going to take advice from that person. So yeah, I would, one of the biggest success stories for me was getting myself a mentor early on. So go and find a business mentor, you'll find some business mentors who don't even charge. A business coach will charge because they're coaching you through the entire business. But a mentor is really just mentoring you. A lot of them just do it for free because they just like helping people with business ideas. Go and find yourself a mentor and start, going into networks and networking with entrepreneurs. I'm in a number of vegan and plant-based entrepreneurial circles, and I'm always so happy when you get the odd one or two people who don't even have a business yet, and they've just turned up and they just, I just want to soak in the atmosphere. I just thought, oh my God, you're going to go places. You don't even have a business yet, but you're already just wanting to be around entrepreneurs just to get a feel. Go and do that, and get advice from people who are doing it. Even if they failed, that person's advice is so much better than someone who's never done it before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good to that point of surrounding yourself with people who are fired up and ready to go. And if any of you are, sitting back going, well, I wanted to be vegan, but everybody around me eats meat. I don't. Mitali doesn't. So you've got a couple of people right here that you can hang out with as well, for sure. Mitali, thank you so much for being on My Way today. It was such a pleasure. I'm glad you got here. I'm glad we had this conversation, and I know that it's going to be so beneficial for our audience tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, I apologize. I hate being late. I'm always on time for everything. But yes, I will let you know what's happening with the police helicopter and the criminals, and should be interesting.
I'm glad it wasn't you. I'm glad it wasn't you that did it.
This face, an angel. Never do anything wrong.
I love it. So thank you again, Mitali. Thank all of you for watching or listening wherever you are in the world today. All of my replay people, I love you so much as well. Thank you. Don't forget tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time to catch Divine DNA with the Jacksons here on the Breakthrough Show Network. And until next time, I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I wanted to encourage you to do things your way. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.